Welcome back to a HOOA Cigar review again. Today we're reviewing the Joya de Nicaragua Antaño CT line. People always ask me, what do you smoke, Fury? And now I've smoked this cigar 3 to 5 times, and in general, the Joya, by the way. A friend, he commented I'm butchering the naming. It should be HOOA de Nicaragua, but since most people butcher it way more than me. I've smoked the line HOOA de Nicaragua a lot, and specifically this Antaño CT line is my favorite because it's both mild in flavor and it draws really well for a budget cigar. This one is €7.75, so here we go. In the retrohale and in the finish, you taste something like baked cookies and pastries. Some cinnamon and a little bit of acidity, like a bitterness in the back of it, like coffee. The label says that this vitola is Corona Gordo, which is quite a unique shape vitola because Corona usually is thinner and longer and a Gordo is usually fatter and thicker. So it's quite fascinating that they've created an amalgam of these two. I didn't take it this time, but my favorite of the Antaño CT line is actually the one with the torpedo end. This one just had a flat cap, but it had a thin ring gauge, which I prefer in most cigars, to be honest, because you have to smoke it more patiently, not to overheat the surface because it's so thin. And if you overheat, it becomes too bitter and you're ruining your smoking experience. Also taste some kind of almonds or anise that you can get in these kind of shots. Draws really well. Construction's okay. The ash is stacked on top of each other, but it's not per se snowy white or supremely thin powdery like a good Opus X. I'm pairing it with Di Saronno. That's a standard Amaretto liquor. Technically, a fun fact is that Amaretto has to be made of the pit of a real almond fruit, and the Di Saronno, technically, if you do your research, is not that, but it tastes just the same. And this one is 28% ABV, so you have to get used to it or mix it in the quite prolific cocktail called the Godfather. You can do it 50-50 Di Saronno, 50-50 Amaretto liqueur, and 50% something like a straight budget whiskey such as Johnny Walker Black is fine, or just throw in your Maker's Mark and you'll do well. If you pair such an insanely viscous liquor and something so sweet with a milder cigar, you have to be careful that you're not overpowering it. In this case, it works quite okay because this cigar doesn't really have sweeter notes, so you're complementing it. So if this is more in the line of pastry notes and flavors, you're adding sugar and sweetness towards it, creating a more dessert-like experience. This is what they would categorize in haute cuisine and winery, like sommelier stuff, as not contrast pairing but more complementary pairing. Really mild cigar. This is a cigar that you could smoke definitely first thing in the morning. It's that light, or in the early afternoon. It's not that heavy on the stomach. In this case, I did eat already, but it's not a necessity per se. So a cigar is comprised of 3 general layers. From the outside, concentrically to the inside, you have the wrapper leaf, binder and filler. Usually, exceptions excluded, binder and filler give less of the taste. I've had lengthy discussions with people about this. The wrapper gives almost up to 80% of the cigar's flavor. The binder and filler, the inner parts in the core of the cigar, which is burning right now, is Nicaraguan tobacco. And the outside, the reason why I actually prefer the cigar over the other ones in this specific line, is an Ecuadorian Connecticut shade. Connecticut cigars tend to be quite mild in strength, the delivery in your mouth, your throat, and the way you feel, but also in the dosage of flavors. Ecuadorian imported Connecticut tobacco is generally more cheap than compared to real Connecticut grown tobacco that they use, for example, in some prestigious and premium Rocky Patel cigars and other cigars as well. Perdomo use them a lot for their premium line. The pungy creaminess of this Antaño CT line, CT for Connecticut, delivers a creamy part that gets accessed in the second part. In the first part, it wasn't really available. As soon as you transition from the first to the second part, you really start to feel that. Add to that a very characteristic yeasty note I catch in this cigar, which is sometimes equated to a certain breadiness. For a more childish perspective, I would say it tastes like putting a pencil in your mouth. For some people this might not be it, but it has a very wooden hue towards it, which I generally prefer in my cigars. The famous one is Davidoff's Signature, who has that a lot, and a couple other cigars that are extremely mild in color, wrapper, and profile flavor. A little game that cigar aficionados like to do is create this ash cone or this ash stack and not let it fall or not let it topple over. And this is like a mini competition that you can do with your brothers of the leaf when you're smoking, to see whose ash stack falls first. When somebody gets a little bit too tipsy or handles or mishandles or manhandles their cigar too heavily, too recklessly, and then the cone falls and then you lose. Next drink's on them. This yeasty note you can taste also in the red trail is very available there, and this actually, like most cigars, if you're watching the reviews, the second part is actually my favorite. This punginess has a little bit of a spiciness that wasn't prevalent in the first part, but gets accessed in the second. Welcome back to the third and final part of the cigar. As a general rule of thumb, a heuristic, is that the third part is like a climax in general, like in a movie or in a story where the first and the second part come together. Usually the third mirrors in terms of flavor profile the first part. In this case it is true, but what's interesting is that the creaminess stayed a little bit, which is nice, and the more spicier note stayed as well. That adds with the amaretto drink that I was having. I would say this one is too sweet. A good pairing for this would definitely be a solid, robust, spicy bourbon such as Buffalo Trace or Maker's Mark or Elijah Craig. I really like that one. Or Knob Creek would work really well with this one. was a thin ring gauge cigar. I didn't overheat it. I kept my cool. It burned evenly all the way to the end. No touch-ups needed. The construction held up. This cigar is a totemic exemplar why I favor Joya de Nicaragua over most cigar. It is a budget cigar, so you don't have to break the bank for these kind of cigars. If you're just working or a blue collar kind of guy, you can smoke these kind of cigars almost on a daily basis or once a week and have a nice repose with a nice cigar. This one is a slightly more novel, the CT line. It is more designed for modern people and stuff like that. And if you smoke a lot of cigars, a mild cigar is the way to go. It doesn't give a lot of smoke, so if you want to flex or if you want that burst of smoke and this induction, this immersion of flavor coating your tongue and your palate, this cigar ain't it, but it is to be expected from such a thin cigar. This would work also well with a latte or a cappuccino because of the creamy notes that you pair with the cream in the cappuccino or the latte. And definitely the yeasty breadiness of this cigar would make an excellent pairing with any type of dessert, pastries or cake. And with that, I'll leave this review. Like and subscribe, spread the word of HOOA, keep supporting, and thanks again for watching. Till next time, HOOA.